Oh, the match is on now. Okay. All right. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another match of the TOUHOU Project Mania Cup 4th iteration. We've got yet another match coming into just like starting off this round of 32 weekend, and it seems like we're going to be having none other than Mr. BX Winter Arc going up against Help Me Pepperin with Seed 7 versus Seed 26. So, as we can see, I may have came a bit late due to some circumstances that came up like earlier on, but despite that, I'm your host Epic Man too, and I'm gonna be your only commentator for this match. It seems so. As we can see, we see like both the teams like basically going through their roles like already. As we can see, like we can see Help Me Pepperin has protected Rice 4, and then we can see that apparently Mr. BX Windsor Arc has protected Rice 5 as well. So both players protecting Rice maps, and they're also both banning LN maps. So like, I don't know way too much about both these teams in retrospective, considering that but looking here, like from what I can see, I have a feeling that both of them are probably like a lot more like well versed when it comes to Rice like maps in general than when it comes to LNs or other fields in general. Like just based off like some of these like just based off like some of these decisions that have been made for the roles and protectors we can see here. And I think with that, it seems that Help Me Pepperin is the first to pick the map in this match, as we can see, as seeing that they under the assumption that they would have won the roles as from earlier on. So I have a feeling that like they might like start the match off with like some sort of Rice map. If I'm not mistaken, there's like quite a bunch of maps on the board, as you can see, to choose from. So. And it seems like they're going to be choosing Rice for, so immediately going for their protect. This is none other than this was that one map. It is none other than it's none other than Vodka Niwa Tonic by Ailson. So this one being like a relatively bursty like sort of Rice tech map. I could definitely see like why they would have opted in for like going into like the map, and also just like. Oh no, picking it out to start off with. Maybe to just sort of like set the tone of the map in general. But like it's weak. But as I can see here, there's like literally a bunch of Rice players already like in this lobby, as we can see. Like Mr. Beajek's winner arc is like very. It seems like it might have like some sort of force when it comes to these Rice maps in general, which I don't think is going to be the greatest, like, sort of signal for the likes of Help Me Pepperin to go off of, considering the fact that Mr. BX winner arc has, like, played in the group stage, and they have shown that they are, like, a relatively strong team in liveVer's fields, especially, like, in the early game, as we can see, they have, like, gotten like relatively high scores on Rice maps such as Mega no Echo and also Akabashi Rocket from like the group stage, getting basically Big Yetka and Klobak getting like just very high accuracy scores in general, of a very high caliber, just 998Ks all around. And as we can see, the match is already starting. We just getting through like this little intro, we can see I think Big Yetka has taken like some misjudgments here that's going to give the upper hand to Help Me Pepperin, as we can see. Just going into here like very early, they have a pretty comfortable lead of about 2,000 points like to start off with, as we can see getting past the first quarter already. Like as we can see, Yoshiap holding the higher accuracy on the side of Help Me Pepperin, whereas like Klobak is basically holding a similar accuracy, basically the highest accuracy so far in the whole lobbies we can see here so far. And because of as we can see Big Yetka like sort of anchoring the score lead like down on the side of Winter Arc, it's only putting like some disdain in their like chances of being able to actually claim the lead onto their side. We can see Help Me Pepperin clearly capitalizing off their mistakes in retrospective. Just go now, making it past the 10,000 point mark. Big Yetka still dropping a lot of accuracy here and there throughout this map, and we're not only that, we're already like halfway through. We're even more than halfway through now. So like, I have a feeling that even if Big Yetka like manages to climb their accuracy back into the equation and does manage to like try and at least get something that's of substance for their team, I don't think it's going to be enough unless someone on Help Me Pepperin does make a mistake. So, but even then, trying to pray for such things to happen between Yoshiap or Daihuku, as we can see, is probably going to be a bit of a tall task, because they have like such a strong like axe lead, and even hanging on to the full combos. Every player in the lobby holding on to the FC. It's not going to mean anything as this map just closes out. You just got like these final bursts and streams here, but that's basically it of the map, unfortunately for them. A strong start from Help Me Pepperin to start off with, and relatively like interesting to see how they like basically capitalize off this point earlier. I think if it wasn't for like some of those like misjudgments from Beajek like earlier on that basically like held the performance back a bit on the side of Winter Arc, then things could have definitely been a bit different, considering that once again Clubbuck does have the highest ratio in the whole lobby, getting sub 100 perfects, as we can see, and a 997k. With literally beating out Yosha by about nearly a full 1,000 points. But despite that, Winter are going to be like looking in to try and just counter that just counter pick against what Help Me Pepperin had chosen prior. I have a feeling that like Rice might be like, or actually no, Rice should be in their strongest field, but then again they have like some of these other maps to choose from as well, considering the fact that we've seen Help Me Pepperin and the fact that they could do well in Rice, like without a doubt. But then like another factor to really like sort of consider is that when it comes to like matches in general, you should really like have a team that's sort of well-rounded in general. So that's when like some of these LNs and hybrids come into play. So, but as we can see, despite that, they're going to be going to pick out Rice 5. So that's going to be Ekoro like being picked out early into the match. Going to be Winter Arc's first map pick of this map pool. This map is relatively weird. It's like, I mean, it is like basically built off of a scrap map from a TOUHOU Cup third from earlier on, but this is a map that is like really sort of a mixed bag by definition, given the fact that it has like a lot of like very funny rhythms that just make no sense like whatsoever to the human ear, but also the fact that it's also just relatively mixed in general with the fact that you've got a lot of these like really technical bursts here. And also, like, just a lot of, like, really funky rhythms in general that you really gotta, like, pay a close eye to in general. Otherwise, if you don't, then it's most likely gonna throw you off. Because, like, this is definitely not something you can easily sight read unless if you are, like, already well-versed with, like, these kinds of really technical patterns in general. Especially on really technical songs such as this one in specific. And like you can easily hear from the song here that is just like pretty all over the place. I mean, like it just sounds funny. And not only that, but this is like a relatively short map as well, only clocking in about 1 minute and 37 seconds. I believe this is one of the shortest maps in this round of 32 pool. So that might be a bit of a problem if like anyone like ends up making a mistake here. And we've seen from Rice 4 earlier and how that went. So I would pray that, like, maybe... But then again, like, I have a feeling that the underperformance from earlier was, like, probably just a bit of a technical issue. And so I wouldn't, like, really say that this pick is going to be inherently safe for Help Me Pepperin. As we can see, getting through, like, some of these, like, patterns that just really switch up a lot. You got, like, some of these core jacks, and then you got, like, some of these, like, parts. And Daihuku taking that miss early on, that's just going to give Winter Arc the upper hand going past the first quarter of the map. As we can see, they have built a lead of about 10,000 points, and just getting through, like, this sort of dubstep-oriented section, it's not... It's a section that doesn't last very long, so it immediately goes to, like, a relatively calm section that has like some like small bits here and there that just can throw people off because of how the rhythm just abruptly changes. But despite that, this is a section in the song that lasts for a relatively short amount of time as we get into like the main course here, which just introduces like a lot of these really funky rhythms, just like putting the melody and just, oh no, just like taking it out for a walk like it's some sort of dog, and Daihuku just suffering victim to the patterns here, as we can see, just like not being able to like just keep themselves intact. That's only going to just guarantee that lead for Winter Arc, and also just give them that substantial amount that they would have needed to actually win the point without any sort of objections to be made. So getting that relatively strong team score, and Clubbuck getting sub 70 perfects on the map, only 67. That is still the highest like accuracy, the highest ratio in this whole lobby. Once again, getting the lobby MVP twice in a row based off these Rise picks. Even with Beajek, like just sort of not performing, not delivering a strong performance as Clubbuck did. The misses from TOUHOU really just sort of spelled the nail in the coffin for them there, as the lead is now tied. But Help Me Pepperin gonna be wanting to try and tie things up once again, try and look for another breakpoint. They've got like basically 4 of the Rice maps left in this map pool, as we can see, but they've also got like a lot of other maps to go for. As we can see, they have banned like half the LNs, so like I definitely see this being a bit of a Rice battle, but at the same time, considering that like it might be risky to go against Winter Arc on some of these LNs and hybrids in general. So I guess here it's either that Help Me Pepperin is gonna go for like one of the more simpler like Rice maps, so either Rice Free, which is like a Korjak map basically at 138 BPM technically, or potentially Rice 2, which is also a jump stream map, so that's also very sort of jump stream like face Winter Archon. But despite that, it seems like they're gonna be going for Rice Free. So Alice's Mad Tea Party by Eric Trooper is gonna be a Korjak map at about 184 BPM, as we can see at the bottom here. But technically, this map is actually only at about 138 BPM because of this song having like triplet rhythms in general, which basically is a sort of like own field to sort of really just try and just essentially like act really like it's different to like when you play a more straightforward Korjak where you literally have to play like where you have to like just keep hitting like every single note that happens in just a single beat for like so long, whereas this one it has like less notes like per beat, but at the same time it can be pretty daunting to play depending on who you're up against, because Korjak maps are usually infamous for being those kinds of maps in the early game where it really relies on your accuracy. So like because like if Help Me Pepperin, we can see from Yoshi up here, who's like very well known, who is able to like keep the accuracies intact, and Pepper, I'm not too sure about like what they're capable of here, but as we can see, Pepper had like found some misjudgments earlier on, which is gonna give Winter Arc the upper hand. As we can see, Clubbuck holding almost a full 100% accuracy, but despite that, it seems like the score lead has just been brought down a bit. As we can see, but yet having like faltered a bit with some of these like very minor misjudgments that's just gonna lead the score to simply flickering. And even if they have like a cushion of about 1,000 points, it's not going to mean anything like substantial unless one of the teams in Help Me Pepperin does make a substantial mistake. And it seems like I think one of the players on Help Me Pepperin had dropped a bit like downwards to actually bring like the score lead to Winter Arc. But despite that, they're also trading some of these like misjudgments here and there, some of these like perfects potentially just like being a bit of a curveball in terms of what really makes their accuracies like actually substantial here. And we've seen from Beajek taking some of these very minor misjudgments that's actually going to be a bit of a problem here, considering how close everyone's accuracies are. It's like the minute someone makes a mistake, then the opponent is going to eat off of them, and we can definitely see why they would have gone for this pick, even though it is incredibly risky here. As we can see, as all the players are just not faltering a bit. Yoshap just going to drop slightly under Pepper's accuracy, as we can see, but Clubbuck still holding the highest accuracy in the lobby. I think Beajek took a pretty big misjudgment that's going to give Help Me Pepper the upper hand, and that is something that you don't want going into this map, as this map just closes out. There's not much left, and with Help Me Pepper getting just capitalizing off the point with nearly 5,000 points. I think it was one of those very like low misjudgments that Beajek caught. But despite that, Klobuck just getting on the 30 perfects. That is unfortunately not going to be enough, as the team consistency on Help Me Pepperin just simply overpowers it by a pretty long shot. If only one of the players on Help Me Pepperin had taken a break as well, had like taken some sort of miss that was substantial enough to actually equalize things, then it could have definitely been a bit of a problem for them. But despite that, Help Me Pepperin going to simply capitalize off of that. Winter Arc is gonna be wanting to try and like counter that once again with like another map that is going to be in their field. So I have a feeling that like maybe in general, Winter Arc might be a lot more confident when it comes to these kinds of like maps that are less about like consistency, but also more about like technicality. So so you've got the likes of Mad Tea Party and Rice 4 like out of the equation, but their only point now that they had won was on Rice 5, and despite that, they're going to be going for LN1, as we can see here. So that is going to be none other than Hardcore Jinja, as we can see. So this being like the coordination LN map of this map pool. Once again, both players like ban an LN map off the board, only leaving half of the plate to be like really just consumed, as we can see. This is probably going to be a bit of a dangerous like map for both of these players, as we can see, if they end up not being able to use the same potency that they have shown, that they have like really gone across on these Rice maps, as we can see so far. Especially considering the fact that this LN coordination map, it is in fact faster than the LN coordination map from the last one, which was none other than Necrophantasia. With this map clocking in at 190 BPM, this features a lot more of these kind of rigid, sort of anchored patterns and gluts here and there that a lot of players just tend that could definitely throw a lot of players off if they aren't like the most sort of capable when it comes to these patterns, as we can see. As all the players have basically sent out their good luck, have fun. We're going to be changing the tone of the matchup as we finally get to see the first LN map of the map hole, as we can see. As we can see, so far, Winter are just getting like a very slight lead of a few hundred points just from some of these misjudgments on Help Me Pepperin. I don't think either player had the strongest start. As we can see, Daihuku basically hanging on to being the lower hanging fruit of their group. But despite that, it seems like it's not going to be any safer for Winter Arc either, as they still take some misjudgments of their own as well. Klobuck still like doing their best to ratio, but despite that, Beajek was just hanging on to the highest accuracy just by a small margin, but then just dropped it, and Klobuck drops as well. So equalizing the score a bit, it's going to lead the score to flicker for a bit, getting past the first quarter, and we can see that clearly the score is just not changing even. And now, after getting into this calm section, I think one of the players on the side of Help Me Pepperin, it might have been Daihuku, just taking like a bit of a drop. But now, despite that, getting some more patterns here, just being shown after such a short break in this map, that's not going to change anything. But I think now, and at this point, there is really no cushion to work with, as Winter Arc just only has mere hundreds of points that they have to work off of going into this map. I think if it was like a harder map in general, then they could have like just simply tried and capitalized off of like some of these harder LN maps in general, as we've seen Werewolf House from the previous match as well, which was from the previous map pool as well in the group stage, which was like relatively like all over the place in terms of like the coordination patterns that are incorporated into it. But despite that, it seems like things are not working in favor for Help Me Pepper in here, as TOUHOU still is hanging on to the lower accuracy. The lowest accuracy in the lobby, which basically just anchors down YuEast's tremendous accuracies we can see here. Just like a fair which was a fair margin above everyone else, but because of the faults on TOUHOU's end, it only just makes matters worse for them, as it just brings WinnerArc to their second breakpoint, allowing them to tie the score up once again, getting past there. And with everyone basically getting a 990k, it's just YuEast that's the outlier here, getting only one great and also a 995k going into this LN coordination map. This is one of the only LN maps in the map pool, so this is going to be a bit of a dangerous situation for like both these players, considering how equal they are on like all these maps that we've seen so far, and we've only gone through literally 4 of them so far. We've exhausted like half the rice maps already. And even now, we've already basically just used half the LN pool that was remaining. So, despite that, Help Me Pepper going to be wanting to try and like secure another breakpoint. They're going to be going for Rice too, which is going to be none other than the jump stream map. So this one going to be none other than Chanteku-san Yosei no Itazura Dai Senso. This is a 200 BPM jump stream map, so any map in this map pool in general is going to be really scary for both these teams to really face off against, because like we've seen that this is literally a pure accuracy battle from basically everyone, and knowing how well versed they are in these kinds of patterns overall. So this map gonna be yet another straightforward jump stream map at only 200 BPM. This is 3 minutes long, so this one being a bit longer, and on the contrary to all the maps that we have seen so far, this is going to be pretty dangerous for like all these players if they don't have the endurance to be able to tackle this pick going forth, to be able to just charge headfirst into this pick, and to just try their best to keep the accuracy like on top. We can definitely see Clawbuck like doing insanely well with like these rice patterns, with considering that they aren't like unconventional or anything like that, just as much as we've seen Clawbuck on the Beajek map from earlier. But then the question is, will WinnerArc really be able to capitalize off of that alone? Because at this point now, it is just a mere matter of simply team consistency alone, which is going to be like something very important going in here, especially if you want, especially because of how scary these maps are, with like how easy they are. The one thing that you really need here is something to really set you apart, and that's going to have to be if both the players on your team are just quite literally equal and can get like insanely high performances. Because otherwise, if your team is like, if your team has like 2 players and they are like on the same sort of caliber, then it is gonna be a bit of a mind. Then it's gonna be a bit of a mind frick to like just deal with. Like, it's just gonna lead things to becoming such a big mess, and we can already see that like so far, all the players are just insanely equalized. It's only really TOUHOU just trying to contest against Clawbuck's tremendous accuracy once again, as they are both already in just maintaining onto that 99.9% accuracy going past the first quarter of the map, whereas YuEast and Beajek basically just equalized in accuracy. Everyone hanging on to the FCs so far and getting past like the first, and just getting past like quite a bunch of jump streams so far. It's already past the 1,000 combo mark, so any misses here is gonna cost like way too much for both these players. And I think it seems like they're Help Me Pepper going to be easing off some of these like very minor misjudgments from Beajek right there, just getting like a few hundred points. But any misjudgment they're going to be making here as well is only going to bring the same result, and that is something that they don't want if they want to be able to try and get the breakpoint. As we can see, both players are just insanely equalized when it comes to these maps in general, despite this massive seeding difference. As we can see, this is once again the seed 26 team going up against the seed 7 team. So you'd probably expect them to do, you would probably expect them to be sweeps, but here they are just showing you that they have a lot more on the table to offer, as we can see. Just like, as we can see, they're still eating off some of those prior misjudgments from Beajek earlier. That's only going to bring the lead towards them. They have about 1,000 points of cushion to work with, but that is not going to be so much either, considering that there is only a core of the map left. This is 3 minutes long. This is one of the longest maps so far in this map pool. And getting through like a lot of these really broken jump streams here, some of these like really some of these like pretty silly anchors thrown in here or there, and some of these split throws and jump throws especially. It seems like no one on the side of Help Me Pepperin is going to be throwing on any of them, still keeping the axes intact as YuEast and TOUHOU. But YuEast taking that miss, that is only going to make matters worse for them as it brings the lead back onto the back into Winter Ark's side, just at the last section as well. Oh my god. That is something that you don't want to experience, and it's especially very like devastating as well, considering the fact that TOUHOU had made it through the map and had gone such a high score such a high score lead for the team, just basically carrying everyone on, just basically carrying YuEast on their back as well, just getting nearly 997k, and it's basically their sort of way of mirroring Clubback's performance here, who only got 116 perfects, as we can see, but with Winter Ark basically winning off of Pepperin's point, getting the break point that is going to set them further apart, that they are now going to be picking up LN2, so that's going to be a Paranoid loss. So this being like an LN density map, like on the contrary, this is the last like other LN map remaining in the map pool that they can use. So if the same sort of situation does end up being reciprocated from Winter Ark's like mistakes and misjudgments here, then this is going to spell way too many problems here. We've seen how equal all of these players are in their own respective fields, and it is still like, and it's only going to get really scary, and it's only going to make things a lot worse when you get later into the match, when the nerves really start to sink in, and both these players are basically on the most equal footing that you could imagine, just going into like a free-legged race, as we can see. And going on an LN density map such as Paranoid Lost here, this is going to be really, really tough for all these players here. If anyone makes a mistake, at least. Okay. Sorry, I can't shut up. I guess that's just the pain of like just being a solo commentator, but it's okay. All right. That was a refreshing warm drink to have, just going past the halfway mark on this match, especially. But as we can see, getting into the intro here, this is LN density at about 176 BPM. It's gonna be Paranoid lost by YuEast, and you know YuEast very much for their really sort of LN oriented maps in general. They have mapped quite a bunch of LN maps in general, not only like secluded to just simply LN density maps in general, but also coordination as well. And their LN density maps are of a very sort of specific style. They are sort of jump stream oriented, and this map, it really does show like sort of what they are capable of when it comes to these kinds of LN density maps, as it has like quite a bunch of really directional patterns influenced by jump stream alone. But it can definitely be something that can throw players off if they aren't too careful. As we can see, this sort of dense stream burst, I think that's only going to that's only going to make matters worse for Help Me Pepper and just throwing them off a bit, getting into this sort of course here. We can see a lot of these like shields just being thrown at you, as we can see, just going through the match, as we can see. Now allowing Winter Arc to be able to build a point lead of about nearly 2,000 points, but I think because of some mistakes but I think because of Klobach here making some misjudgments here, that's only going to bring the lead closer and dropping just under the 99.80% accuracy mark. That's only going to bring the lead closer to Help Me Pepperin as well. But I think despite that, some of the players in Pepperin have made the same mistake as well. I think Daihuku might have found some more misjudgments here that just allowed Winter Arc to just not let up their lead so far. And so far going through this map, we can see that all the players are relatively equalized. It's just a matter of just the unstable rate from any of these players. And we can see Beajek like just sort of like being in the middle, but it's just a matter of like these greats that really can spell danger for them. And with the map closing out, it is only 2 minutes and 30 seconds, just allowing Winter Arc to be able to secure the lead and also to secure match point going in here. A strong effort from all these players, and YuEast still getting onto, once again, getting a team MVP on the Ellen map. It is not going to be enough there. It is not going to be substantial enough to be able to carry Daihuku on YuEast's back, as we can see here. Going to be seeing both players, Beajek and Klobach, just simply getting a very equal scoring here. This is why team consistency is very, very important when it comes to these early game stages in general of a tournament. And despite that, Help Me Pepperin is in a bit of a dangerous situation right now, as Winter Arc has basically made it to their match point already going into this match. It's just a matter of Help Me Pepperin. Help Me Pepperin does not have any other options here other than to simply like just try and force a tiebreaker. We're going to be none other than Hain no Alien, as we can see here, like on the bottom, or just to like try, or just end up like just allowing Winter Arc to go like in and around a 16 unscathed, despite such a scary like rice battle between all these players that we have seen. And with all the Ellen maps gone, especially, it basically just means that there is no map left for Winter Arc to really sort of capitalize on. That is Ellen Orient, because it is one of their maps that is in their advantage, despite some of these strong performances from Help Me Pepperin as well. So I think at this point it's gonna have to be like, I think at this point Help Me Pepperin is either gonna have to pick one of the few remaining maps left. There's only 4 on the board, 2 of them being rice maps and 2 of them being hybrids. And we have not seen a single hybrid out at all during this whole match. Not to mention that like these hybrids in question, they would still be really dangerous to see like going up against the likes of Winter Arc with such well-rounded players in Ellens and hybrids as well, as you've seen from the previous matches. And despite that, they're going to be picking out Rice 6. This is going to be Magic Girl. This is the hardest Rice map in the whole map pool. So that basically just means that it's only going to leave like one Rice map if Help Me Pepper does end up finding some victory off of the map in question. And Magic Girl being like one of the few remaining tech maps left remaining in the map pool, there is not much options that they have left if they want to be able to try and like just force yet another risky but desperate like accuracy battle that some of these players might really need if they want to be able to try and keep themselves in this equation. Or at least if they want to be able to try and keep themselves in the winner's bracket, as we can see. And with that, we can see all the players just making a start now, getting through like this pretty dangerous like jack that just immediately grabs your attention. Just starting this match off, you get a lot of these Beajeks just thrown at you very early on, and we can see both these players, all the players especially, just not faltering a single bit. Just going through like a lot of these like bursts like very early into the map. This is 3 minutes and 30 seconds long, so this being like the full song, I believe this is going to this is going to be pretty dangerous for like all these players if they don't end up capitalizing off of these really technical rice parents here, because this is like a pretty difficult map in its own right. It has a lot of these bursts, and Taj gonna be taking the miss, having switched out with Beajek apparently. It's only gonna give the lead back to Help Me Pepper, and this pick already working in their favor, just getting past the first quarter. But if WinnerArc really wants to be able to try and get the lead for themselves and to be able to end the match as it stands, they're really gonna have to try and like do their best to try and just not allow Maris to go back into the hands of Pepperin, as we can see. I think at this point they're gonna have to pray for another mistake from Pepperin to make here, either from Daihuku or Yoshia, but they have shown so many times that they are incredibly strong when it comes to these rice maps especially, let alone technical ones for that matter. We can see they're still hanging on to a point of about, they're still hanging on to a lead of about nearly 4,000 points now. They're just eating off the raw mistakes that Taj makes, no matter how big or small they are. And that is going to put a pretty big detriment onto their side of the story, as we can see. Just seeing Kloppuk just carry the Axie lead for WinnerArc, as we can see, just the only player in general hanging onto a 99.90% Axie lead so far. But I think some of these mistakes from Daihuku, just dropping their Axie down under the 99.80% mark, that's just going to like bring the lead down and closer to just slightly to WinnerArc's side. It's just not going to be enough, as Taj just simply reciprocates those same errors that are just being made, but dropping under the 3,000 point mark. It's just, there is not so much of the map left, so if any mistake, if anyone on the side of Help Me Pepperin misses, this is going to be insanely devastating for everyone on the team if they really want to be able to keep themselves in the winner's bracket. But as we can see, the map is just slowly closing out. They're still dropping Axie just a bit, but it's not going to be enough. As we can see, just there's only really like a few seconds left, and dropping under the 2,000 point mark, it just really is a matter of like, can these players just hang in tight? And it seems like Help Me Pepperin, despite dropping their score lead lower than how big it was earlier on, is going to be getting that next point. At this point now, Help Me Pepperin is in such a dangerous situation here. Kloppuk haven't gone a 997k on the map, which is just what? But now it seems like Mr. BX WinnerArc gonna be wanting to try and close things out with their final pick. It's gonna be none other than Hybrid 1. So this being Tiger no Moto, I think it was. TOUHOU no Maigo. My bad. Okay. Yeah, this map being gonna be none other than Hybrid 1. This is gonna be a really dangerous pick for both these players. This is a rice bias hybrid, but once again, we've seen from WinnerArc and how well they did on some of these LN oriented maps from earlier. So this map is really no exception when it comes to some of these like really LN-oriented patterns as well, despite having some fair share of rice bursts as well. This is going to be really, really scary for like both these players, as now I don't think WinnerArc would really want to just simply allow themselves to get into a tiebreaker already, just right as they only started the actual tournament after succeeding through this group stage from earlier on. And this is yet another long map as well, clocking in about nearly 3 minutes. This is going to be very, very dangerous for all these players in question. And it's pretty scary to think about as well, considering that THMC, despite this massive seeding difference, has shown time and time again that they are a strong force when it comes to these kinds of maps in general, or at least when it comes to these rice-oriented maps as we've seen earlier. But the difference is now that the final map of this map pool potentially is not going to be just a rice map. It's going to have elements thrown into them, so it's just really up to the players on THMC, YuEast, and TOUHOU to really tie things once more and to be able to at least give themselves an opportunity to try and make their way into the round of 16 bracket without, even with this match, going to be like pretty traumatizing depending on who comes out of it. It seems like so far WinnerArc has the upper hand just by a bit. Clubbook now having a lower axis than Beajek, as we can see, but YuEast hanging on to the highest axes in the lobby so far, just like 2 small integers ahead of Beajek, and TOUHOU just anchoring the score lead down, which is only going to detriment their score way more than they would actually want to afford now, as we are now just past the first quarter of the map. WinnerArc only has a lead of about 2,000 points, and it can just simply decrease at like any moment. All these players are just eating off of each other's mistakes right as they just simply get through it, and just getting through like a lot of these relatively sort of like specific patterns. They have a lot of rice bursts and some of these mini jacks as well. Just a lot of these really coordination-oriented patterns with rice bursts thrown in between them. That's only going to do nothing but add fuel to the fire as TOUHOU falls victim to some of them, and getting into this jump stream-oriented section, or at least this rice-oriented section, this has like quite a bunch of weird patterns, and Beajek just dropping because of them alone. That is going to bring the lead closer to Pepperin, but not going to be exactly enough. But there's already only a quarter of the map left. This is literally a very dire situation for WinnerArc. They really want to just be able to just simply make their way into the round of 16 without any problems. But even now, with TOUHOU just making some more misjudgments on the side, that's only going to make matters worse for Pepperin, as now the score lead is about nearly 3,000 points of difference. Any miss from anyone on WinnerArc is going to just simply spell doom, but there is not enough of the map left for that to happen. WinnerArc successfully preventing that tiebreaker from being forced by the likes of THMC and going to make it out of the round of 32's winners bracket without so much, having bled so much throughout that whole match. In the end, they are going to be moving forward, even with those wounds from the rice maps and those very tense rice battles in general. We're going to be seeing, and also preventing such a potential scary upset as well. It's going to be none other than Mr. BX WinnerArc just simply winning with a 5-3 victory in the round of 32 bracket. An incredible effort from this team, and unfortunately going to be knocking down Pepperin into the losers bracket. It seems like, from what I can see, the next match they're going to be facing in the round of 16 bracket is going to be it is going to be the winner of SpongeBob Water versus Sprite Cranberry, which is actually happening like later on. So this being their potential match for the next week, and it seems like for the next week as well, THMC is going to be facing whoever loses that same match as well. So definitely quite a close match that was way too close for safety in general. Despite how much the odds were against them, Mr. BX WinnerArc going to be punching their ticket into the round of 16, and I think that's it really. they managed to win such a close match already to start. One of the close matches to start this round of 32 weekend already. And we have yet another match going to be starting in about a few minutes from now. Only 10 minutes. We've got Bucket 12-17 God Scream versus Eerie Idiots in Space. So this is going to be quite an interesting one. And with that, I don't really have anything else to say, really, as I am the only commentator, as I was the only commentator in this match. So I think it's safe to say we can close off here. But once again, just want to thank you all for watching. This has been Epic Man 2, and we hope to catch you in about 10 minutes. Peace.